one of those happy coincidences in life that you don't expect. I haven't seen Joseph Bastante since, 20 years at least. We were both together at Warren Wilson all those years ago, and it's just a delight to read with you tonight, Joseph. Thank you to the Pennsylvania Center for the Book, for protecting the book, which is an endangered species, and for choosing the poem that I'm about to read for the Public Poetry Project. In a way, this poem has been exhumed as it was written in the 1970s, when the dream was new, and it was in my first published book. Its theme, though, has been perennial with me, a kind of post-Darwinian slippage into the skin and the point of view of the non-human animals in an effort to see our own species better. Even as the times demand that we outgrow the human-centered myths from the childhood of the race. So, knowing the enemy. And thank you to the designer, that's a gorgeous poster. The sun strikes the whale's back. He dives until the sun is overcast with tons of green. He knows himself full grown. The burden that he carried in his belly like a stone is gone. He has given his Jonah back to God. For years he carried him under the furrowed trenches of his brow and felt him walk by day the caves under the great hill of his back. This memory, this earthbound being he had been. Since he was small, this man thing had been tangled in the mangroves of his mind, burning like swamp fire or the hated sun, searing him who needed filtered light, for whom the mist was heaven. Such preferences are fate. When with a great heave he disgorged this image that distended him, he found it strange how puny his antagonist had grown, a twin-tailed tadpole rushing off in foam. His silver geyser rises in the air. The bad dreams disappear like islands off his starboard flank. He moves huge through his own mist, oiled silver by the moon, arrowed as Saint Sebastian, bristling harpoons. Get you a few more here. We are now moving into the present. The mist is cleared. This is written in the 21st century, and I'm going to shift the scale here from the whale to the bee. This poem asks, what if the bee could see what we see? But then, field of vision. And if the bee, half drunk on the nectar of the columbine, could think of the dying queen, the buzz of chaos in the hive, the agitation of the workers in their cell, the veiled figure come again to rob the combs. Then with the summer fields grows still, the hum of propagation cease, the flowers spread bright petals to no avail, as if a plug were drawn from a socket in the sun. The light that flowed into the growing field would fail. For how should the bee make honey then? Afraid to look away. I'll read you the title poem from The Girl with Bees in Her Hair. Since bees are in the air. A funny idea. All I can tell you about this poem is it did come out of the local air. The girl with bees in her hair was an image. I couldn't get it out of my mind. It irritated me. And when it became a noxious irritant, I put it at the top of the page to see what would happen. The girl with bees in her hair came in an envelope with no return address. She was small, wore a wrinkled dress of figured cotton, full from neck to ankles with a button of bone at the throat, a collar of torn lace. She was standing before a monumental house on the scale you see in certain English films: urns, curved drives, stone lions, and an entrance far too vast for any home. She was not of that place, for she had a foreign look and tangled black hair, and an icon, heavy and strange, dangling from an oversized chain around her neck that looked as if some tall adult had taken it from his and hung it there as a charm to keep her safe from a world of infinite harm that soon would take him far from her and leave her standing as she stood now, barefoot, gazing without expression into distance away from the grandeur of that house, its gravel walks and sculpted gardens. She carried a basket full of flames, but whether fire or flowers, with crimson petals shading toward a central gold, was hard to say, though certainly it burned, and the light within it had nowhere else to go, and so fed on itself, intensified its red and burning glow, the only color in the scene. The rest was done in grays, light and shadow, as they played along her dress, across her face, and through her midnight hair, lively with bees. At first they seemed just errant bits of shade until the humming grew too loud to be denied as the bees flew in and out as if choreographed in a country dance between the field of sun and the black tangle of her hair. Without warning, a window in one of the upper floors flew open. Wind had caught the casement, a silken length of curtain filled like a billowing sail. The bees began to stream out from her hair, straight to the single opening in the high facade. Inside, a moment later, the sound of screams. The girl who had through all of this seemed unconcerned and blank, all at once looked up. She shook her head, her mane of hair freed of its burden of bees, and walked away, out of the picture frame, far beyond the confines of the envelope that brought her image here, here where the days grow longer now. The air begins to warm, dread grows to fear among us, and the bees swarm